This podcast is brought to you by Bodog.net.
Don't miss a chance to play at Bodog.net. When the odds are stacked against you, post-game tastes that much sweeter. Bodog.net, your source of free casino games, poker strategies, and live sports odds.
Ottawa, let's spend some time in the box on TSN 1200, recapping yesterday and giving you a head start on today.
Game, Submatch Fernandez.
Leylah Fernandez is into the semi-finals of the US Open. She becomes the youngest player in 16 years to achieve the feat.
In the box.
The pitch. There's a swing and a high fly ball. Down the line and left. Hooking off towards the pole and gone! Marcus Semien's done it again! You can't stop this guy.
Now, alongside Steve Bunda, here's Steve Lloyd.
Well, good soggy morning to everybody. 10:07. It's a bit of a wet one here in the nation's capital. And I heard JR's traffic reports, and it was particularly not fun coming from the east. Kenny. So we'll get to Kenny's mood in just a moment. I don't know the answer to that question, but welcome to it. Steve Lloyd, producer Kenny Walls. Creature ditched us after one day, and our good friend Stevie Bunda sitting in here the rest of the week on In the Box. Buns, how are you?
Yeah, good. What a punk, eh? That Creature just ditching you after one day.
See you later.
What's going on, Lloyd? It's been a while since, I guess a couple of weeks since we did the mornings together, but how you been?
That's right. You were sitting in for Hammer for a few weeks, and I did 1 week of that. As we're kind of settling back in. It's post-Labor Day.
Have you caught up on sleep still, or yet?
Well, you know what? I wasn't disappointed to see last night's match featuring Felix Auger-Aliassime end early and abruptly with an injury. I'm like, all right, I'm going right to bed. I was done. I had about 4 hours the night before because I stayed up and watched Bianca, and I watched Leylah Fernandez yesterday afternoon. Man, she's a lot of fun to watch. Just and off to the semifinals, and so is Felix. So we'll talk about that here on the show today. I can tell everybody that Trent Mann is having a Zoom call as we speak, and Kenny is rolling on that. So we're going to turn that around and hear from the head scout of the Ottawa Senators, Trent Mann, and talking about the development camp, which is set to get underway this weekend. And the roster was announced earlier today by the Sens for that. So we'll sift through that. Shane Pinto is maybe one of the highlights of that development camp roster. And he was already on the station this morning. If you missed that, it was outstanding. He's a fun interview. We'll have a little fun when you're doing the back and forth during an interview. And if you missed that, it's already up on our website at tsn1200.ca. So we'll continue to have that conversation, and Kenny's going to turn that around Trent Mann for us. Also on the show, some guests lined up. Our good friend Sylvain St. Laurent is going to stop by and give his thoughts on, what's Brady Tkachuk needs a contract, what that's going to look like, and really the fact that Pierre Dorion got a 3-year extension with another option year. Kind of came out of the blue yesterday. That nobody was really expecting that, but here we are. So that's good news for both DJ Smith and Pierre Dorion, who DJ signed his extension a short while ago, and now Pierre Dorion gets his done as well because, a month ago, we were talking about both the coach and GM are entering the last year of their deals. What's going on here? Well, what's going on? They got deals done. So we'll talk to Sly about that and get his thoughts on it. And also later on the show at 1 o'clock, pending something else last minute. They're sharing a set with ESPN down in Flushing Meadows, but our friend Mark Rowe, who has been anchoring the TSN coverage, and there's a lot to talk about. And we'll touch base with Mark again and talk about Leylah and Felix. Gabby Dabrowski is playing a quarterfinal women's doubles match later today. So the Ottawa native trying to punch her ticket to the semifinals. So all kinds of positive news on that tennis front. You can reach us at 1200. Your standard text message rates do apply. So just because I half threw him under the bus to start here, Kenny, how was your drive in from the east this morning? Was it as bad as JR, I was listening to his traffic updates, made it sound?
No, I was.
You're okay?
I was free flowing. The entire
your route
way.
was fine.
Yeah, I did not hear JR's traffic update, so
Okay, well, good, because
Glad I didn't.
that might have made you worried, and you might have maybe deviated from your usual route, right? And then made it worse for yourself. So it all worked out. It's all good.
Very possibly, yeah.
Okay, well, that's good. That's good to hear. All right, let's settle right in. Bunda, you're tweeting about UFC this morning.
Mm-hmm.
When did that air?
Saturday afternoon.
What day is it?
It's hump day. Wednesday.
It's Wednesday.
Yeah.
You're one of those guys. Did you know the results?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, all right.
This was something that, like, I spent. It was a long weekend, and I was at the cottage. I had, some stuff I had to take care of on the weekend, and just dealing with all of that. Then I had a football draft the last couple nights as well, and another one tonight. And like, even for the tennis, I had it on in the background. But of course, as you're doing a football draft, I'm kind of more focused on that, watching the background stuff last night. Also very excited that FAA got his match done early, but being able to do a lot. I didn't have a lot of time, so I caught up on a couple of the matches this morning. As I was preparing for the show, just to kind of watch and see how it happened, because I had already looked up, like you said, the results, but I want to, be familiar with what happened as I'm watching highlights. And I know it's not something we'll spend a lot of time on today at all, more than this segment alone, but just, two, and the one was the local connection.
The first segment, you know what it's like. Yeah. We just fool around a bit. I was just curious what inspired my good friend Steve Bunda about 20 minutes ago to start tweeting about a UFC that happened on Saturday. And I got my answer. That's good.
Yeah, well, and the two fights I weighed in on are the two ones that I was most interested in. One of it being somewhat of a local connection with Marc-Andre Barriault. He's a Gatineau native who has won a second fight in a row. He was on the prelims, so it was good to see him get a win. But then also the big one was this Paddy Pimblett guy. He's an English kind of kickboxer he made his UFC debut. He's very much a outlandish, outspoken, he's got the funny haircut, he's got the English accent, he has a crazy fighting style, and he had a crazy knockout in his UFC debut. He almost got himself knocked out. He's got this wild kind of superstar status to him. He's young, he's 26, so he's kind of got that Conor McGregor feel. He needs to have a couple more wins in a row to kind of have that kind of success, but he's already got the eyes of the UFC and everyone, so I wanted to see how he had that win, because I saw it was just a crazy fight, and it sure enough was a knockout in the first round. So those were the only two big ones. There's a couple other fights on there I was keeping track on, but that's why I was looking at those two. Just the local connection and this new kid that everyone is excited and talking about in the UFC right now.
All right, let me just cover off a few more things here, and then and I think in our next segment we'll play a little bit of the sound from Pierre Dorion from yesterday and that big announcement. We'll get your thoughts on it. I want to hear from you at 1200. Your standard text message rates apply, you always do, on the general manager getting an extension yesterday, and you know what this means. And I'll tell you what this means is there's stability with the coach and the GM. In terms of the deal itself, I can tell you I was a little surprised with the term, but honestly, in the same with DJ Smith, and we had this discussion, Kenny, as you remember earlier in the summer, when you and I worked together a long time ago before we reunited here, and Bunda, you can recall this as well. And this is before DJ Smith signed his extension. I didn't understand having coach and GM going into the final year of their deals, and there's really nothing in place. And you don't know what the future is going to be. So I don't care what the sport is. It makes sense to, if you don't believe in your coach or GM, and then maybe you start looking and make that change now, right? Like, who wants to go? Only bad things can happen usually when, coaches and GMs go into the last years of their deals, and regardless what the sport is, they're views can change. Let's put it that way. So either or get off the pot. Mm-hmm. And both of them got extensions. So honestly, if you're a Sens fan, maybe you disagree. Okay, maybe you thought that maybe Pierre Dorion, isn't the GM to lead this team through the next phase, and that's fine. Everybody can have their opinion. But the one thing I don't think you can disagree on, it's like either extend him or don't, right? And don't means then you're looking for somebody else. Mm-hmm. This kind of going into the season, that's just me, this in-between stuff, that's never good news. So I would say that if you're a Sens fan, at the very least, you're thinking, okay, this is the coach, this is the GM, this is the direction they're going in. They believe in these two, and away we go. And you're not talking about this, during the season. They can just go out and do their jobs and see how it goes.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that kind of accelerated that whole talk about Pierre Dorion's contract was the hiring of Pierre McGuire, right? Because a lot of people expected, if Pierre Dorion's contract is up after this year, we've heard so many times that there was an option anyways, and that, until they pick up that option, he doesn't have a contract. There was the argument going back and forth there, but there was that cloud looming over the head of Pierre Dorion, and he went out and extended, like you said, DJ Smith, which then brought some kind of, continuity to this team, but also some kind of confidence as well. But then Pierre Dorion was kept asking, and he always said he was not worried about his future. He wasn't worried about his contract, and he wasn't worried about anything. But still, the rumors were there. It's it's going to be a talking point. When you bring in a Pierre McGuire, which has been expected and rumored at the 3 years, and Pierre Dorion is sitting here. If something happens, he's kind of he's going to be the scapegoat, right? He's going to be the guy that gets axed, and then it seems like Pierre Dorion is in a spot, or Pierre McGuire was in a spot to take over for him. Now that we've heard that everyone is going to work together and everyone is going to be fine and they're all on the same page, and now the contract is done. Everything looks good in terms of the head coach, in terms of the GM, with Pierre McGuire here now as well, with the owner signing some of these kids. It's all starting to fall into place. So I agree with you completely.
All right, so we'll get into that a little bit more in our next segment, play you some of that sound, just some other things. I was really dialed into the tennis, honestly. I watched a little bit of the Jays game. And then, the Alejandro Kirk show, and Simeon homered again. Kirk had 2 home runs, 6 straight wins, and Boston lost to the Rays again. We knew they had to get hot and get some help, and they're getting both. They're hot and they're getting help. The Jays are now only 2 games back of the Red Sox and 2.5 back of the Yankees, who hold that first wild card spot. And game 3 of that 4-game set in the Bronx goes tonight. Alek Manoah will get the ball for the Jays. So thoughts on the Jays continuing to make their push? Welcome on that. Stevie Bunda is often down at Red Blacks practice. And we talked a lot about this yesterday, wondering would yesterday be the day we'd get some news on the quarterback, and that was the case. Paul LaPolice has made an official change. Dominic Davis is the new starting quarterback for the Ottawa Red Blacks. Matt Nichols to the bench, so that's the way it's going to look when the game begins coming up in Vancouver against the BC Lions on Saturday. World Cup qualifying continues tonight, and this is a little disturbing. Alphonso Davies is not going to play for Canada. The 20-year-old is going back to Germany to continue his recovery. No exact details on the nature of the injury, but it was an obvious pain when he left Sunday's 1-1 tie with the U.S. in the 75th minute, and was greeted by trainers when he got to the bench and seemed to be favoring his leg. Atletico Ottawa plays tonight on TSN 1200 against Forge. That's Hamilton as well. And I want to go through, Sportico has released NFL valuations. Did you see this? Oh, man. The average NFL team, according to Sportico, is worth $3.5 billion. That's the average Bunda. For the valuation. They got their whole list. We'll have a little fun with that later in the show here as well. All right, tell you what, we'll take a break. We'll come back, get to some of that sound, get more details from you. Want to hear from you, the listeners, on the extension for Pierre Dorion, the general manager of the Ottawa Senators. Trent Mann is greeting the media as we speak. Kenny's ruling on that. We'll turn that around for you and get into some development camp talk, because that's the nature of that availability. Camp starts Saturday, runs through Tuesday, and coming up later in the week, I think we're going to get Sean Donovan on the show, who's always a big part of Dev Camp, on Friday to tee that up here for us as well. But right now, we're back in a moment. We'll get to more of your texts on the other side on In the Box on TSN 1200.
This podcast is brought to you by Bodog.net.
Don't miss a chance to play at Bodog.net. When the odds are stacked against you, post-game tastes that much sweeter. Bodog.net, your source of free casino games, poker strategies, and live sports odds.
All right, 10:23. In the Box continues on TSN 1200. We're going to hear from Trent Mann in a little while. Sylvain St. Laurent from Ladois is going to join us at 11. Mark Rowe from Flushing Meadows, U.S. Open. Talk about Layla, Felix, Gabby Dabrowski plays Women's doubles, the Ottawa native later today get an update from the U.S. Open, as it's not just us Canadians talking about this. They're getting all kinds of love from sports fans. Magic Johnson was tweeting about Leylah Fernandez yesterday.
Well, and how about Johnny McEnroe's comments a couple days ago, right?
Yeah.
About, Canadians, they're hockey players. Not supposed to be beating Americans in tennis.
And the latest kind of stat I saw that came out from the International Tennis Federation that, from 2014 to now, no other country has had 6 Slam semifinalists, like unique Slam semifinalists, 3 women, 3 men. And that starts with Jeannie Bouchard, right? When she had a run back then as well. So we'll talk more about that later in the show. Mark Rowe is going to join us coming up at 1. All right, let's talk about the pretty big news in Sens land yesterday, where it was announced that general manager Pierre Dorion, who was entering the last year of his deal, got a 3-year contract extension with an option for a 4th year. Here's Pierre Dorion, part of which some of the things he had to say in his availability, and he was a guest with Lee and AJ on The Drive yesterday. So if you want to hear that entire interview, that's on our website at tsn1200.ca. Just going to run through a little bit here, though. Here's Pierre Dorion, and first up, okay, we're going to run. This is what he had to say, and usually it's not much, and it wasn't, but asked and answered. This is what he had to say about the Tkachuk negotiations.
Don't really want to negotiate in public. You know my line. I've heard it. I've said it many times. We spoke on Friday. It was pretty positive discussions, and we'll just leave it at that.
Okay, so there you have it. That's more detail than we got last time. Spoke Friday. Positive discussions. We'll see where this goes here. And there's nothing really much else to say other than he's going to get signed. Is this going to be the bridge? Is this going to be a term contract? That's it, right? I know that was our web poll question yesterday. I never felt that this thing would not happen, that we're going to be dragging into the season and, oh no, Brady Tkachuk's not signed, and then people wonder about offer sheets. I never saw it going this direction, and I still don't. Bunda, this is just all about what's the term of this contract. Can they push the 8-year deal over that finish line, or will they have to resort to a bridge? To me, that's the either-or scenario here. It's that simple.
Yeah, I do think part of it is money too. Does Brady want guaranteed money? Does he want certain money up front? Does he want a backloaded? What does he want? And where's the value? I do believe there is a certain aspect to, and we've been discussing it for months, and you watch Brady Tkachuk play, it's so hard to compare him to any other player. We look at this Svechnikov deal, and that's like, okay, that's a very good comparison, but it's like, it's not, because of how, Brady Tkachuk is a unicorn. So what does he deem his value at? What does he deem he wants? Does he want short term? Does he want to see where this team is going? I do believe there is a couple issues that are probably going to be at play. Happy to see Pierre getting a little bit more involved with it, talking about speaking on Friday, and that things are moving in the right direction, and that's good news for Sens fans, because like you said, now we've got Drake Batherson signed long term, we've got Pierre Dorion signed long term, DJ Smith was extended. There's a lot that's already happened in the last couple months here to give some confidence to Sens fans. This is the next kind of step, is Brady Tkachuk, right? That's been the priority number one for every single Sens fan, and rightfully so. He's the guy that everyone wants to be the captain and be the guy that's the next big thing and leader of this team. And I think that, I'm not sure about you, Lloydie, but I do think that there is going to be some very hard, determining the value of a Brady Tkachuk, and if he wants a long-term deal, where does that come in? Is it at 8 right away? Does it go to 9? Is it less than that? Does he want a 3-year deal at 8 per? There's a lot that's, I think, at stake here.
All right, next up here, we're going to run through Pierre Dorion's appearance on The Drive yesterday afternoon. Simply, this is his answer to what's the next step for this team.
The next step for us is not to take anything for granted. Last year, we felt we were a team that were hard to play against, but now it's time to challenge to get 2 points every night. Be in every game. Make sure that, games that, maybe you got a point last year, you need 2 this year. In games that you got 0, try to get 1. So I think for us as a group is to continue that growth. A lot of our younger players have reached a maturity stage in their career where they should be leading us and not be considered young players anymore. So I think as a group, it's time to start winning.
Yeah, and at one point he elaborated on that even more so, said the rebuild is over. They're into the next kind of step, next phase of what's happening here with the franchise. And that goes back to internal expectation levels here. You know, does the owner, does Pierre Dorion, is it a massive disappointment if you don't make the playoffs? Is that going to be somewhat unacceptable for this upcoming season? Or is it taking those steps, and outlined it some of that in that answer, in that, and this is the way I've characterized it, and you can characterize it, you're all getting to the same point here. The way I put it, and we were talking about it, you know, over the last few months, over the off season, and I don't know what the true internal expectations are, but I would say ground floor for me, at least, watching this team grow, you can't be dead at the trade deadline. You can't be. You can't go into the trade deadline and we all know, all right, just how high is the lottery pick going to be? And who can you trade right now? You can't. That, to me, that would be unacceptable. This team can't do that. You've got to take that next step. Making the playoffs is going to be hard. Going back to that division, you look at the other teams in the East here right now. I'm not saying they can't, but they better be competitive right through to the final week or two of the season. Yeah. And have a chance to make the playoffs. You can't have that 2-win start over the first 3 weeks that they had last season. That's the way I'll continue to put it. You can't be dead in the water at the trade deadline. No. That's my expectation for this team. That's the ground floor for me, Bunda.
Yeah, what was it, like 1-9-1 or something like that, or 2-12? Like that, you can't have a start to the year. And he alludes to it. You have to. There's nights where they got 1 point, you need to get 2. Like, there's going to be nights like that. And I think when you look at this roster, and, you know, I'm going to assume Brady Tkachuk gets signed here, but heading into this year, I think and depending on if they go out and they acquire another center, but another forward that, you know, it seems like they're still looking to do, I think the question still comes, they've addressed the blue line. Depending on how things go, I think their forwards are okay. It's going to be goaltending. Can Matt Murray be consistent? We saw a glimpse of it at the end before he got injured, but his start to the year was one of the main reasons why this team had a couple missteps. There was a couple of performances where he just wasn't good, and maybe you chalk it up to, you know, COVID and moving here and a new team, a new young squad that got outperformed on most nights. But I don't know about you, Lloydie, if you look at it, is that not the biggest question mark into making sure this team is competitive every single night?
Yeah, that's certainly one of them. Like, somebody, you know, you can have that debate as to what's the most important, but that's right at or near the top of the list. I don't think anybody disagree with you.
No, because I remember we spoke with Pierre Dorion sometime, you and myself, I can't remember when, but it was, you know, after that stretch at the beginning of the year where I asked him, how would you rate the goaltending? And he said straight up, not good enough. It needs to be better. And, you know, it's Anton Forsberg. It's going to be Matt Murray, number one. And how does he come into this year after having 1 year here already in Ottawa? But when I look at this team and I look at where he is and those comments about, you know, we're not in the rebuild anymore. It's time to win. When you look at the comments of, you know, we need to get 2 points and not 1 some nights, it starts, I think, with the goaltender. The veteran goaltender you went out and acquired and you brought in. He's got the cup rings. He's got the experience. Can he help lead this team? We've seen it in the past with Craig Anderson being the leader of this squad from the crease out, and I think that the decor is solid. The forwards are good, but, you know, if they make another acquisition, sure, but I think it's going to start with him, number one in goaltending. I'm
curious to see how Philip Gustafsson might factor into all of this.
Yeah,
he was their best goalie last year. He was.
Yeah.
Like, when you think about it, his sample size very small, but anyways, well, Matt Murray's the guy, and by all accounts has had a really good offseason. Everybody says that, I know. Year 2 of the contract, and hoping to have a much better level of play from Matt Murray, and he expects that of himself, I'm sure, heading into the season. So we'll start there, and we'll see where that goes. All right, I want to roll through these other clips here. We touched on this a bit earlier just before we went to break, but here's Dorion on the importance of just having the stability at GM and head coach in the organization.
Whomever it might be, whatever organization it might be, I think when you have the stability of a general manager who, you know, put the plan together with his owner, you know, at the start of the plan, through the plan, you know, when the plan was finishing. And then I think DJ's the first coach we've extended here in a long time, and the players knowing that he's the boss and, you know, he decides, you know, who plays and who plays what role. And I think that means a lot to, especially, you know, DJ's been here probably almost since the start of this rebuild, and seeing it through for him, seeing it through for me, but seeing it through for a lot of other people on this hockey staff.
Well, I mean, we covered that off in our last segment. Bang on. It doesn't matter the sport when you have that kind of stability. Either you're making changes, right? And if you're thinking about it, just do it. Like if you're an owner, don't let GMs and coaches go into the final years of their deal, because if you're going to do that, then you're obviously thinking, I don't know how this is going to play out. Then, start that change now and get ahead of it. Either do that or extend them. Make a decision. So I'm glad the decision was made. I really was. For both the coach and the GM. Are you doing this or not? Are you continuing down this road or not? Doing it halfway, I've never liked that, Punda. Never liked that.
No, and it's a simple question. Do you believe in me in the process that I've done? Like for Pierre Dorion, I feel like it's 100% fair to extend him into this year. You have given him every, look at the amount of, I don't want to say hate, but the amount of criticism that this organization has taken the last couple of years, going through the rebuild, trading these star players like Erik Karlsson and Mark Stone and JG Pageau, and, going to the bottom of the tank, the draft lotteries year after year. Like they've been through a lot. Pierre Dorion has gutted and seen this thing through. This is the next step of it now, is winning. And this is the year where, all right, do you believe in me and my process? And if so, extend me. If not, it's like you said earlier to start the show. It's either bleep or get off the pot. And that's where this team is. And I think that one thing we all look at, you look at some of the best organizations throughout any sport throughout the world, it's the continuity that always breeds success. And that's it's just known. And when you have constant turnover, it just doesn't breed very good. It doesn't entice, someone that wants to get that job. Or you're looking at outside public figure. Why would someone want to work at a place where they know, their job is on the line after their contract is up?
All right, roster-wise, it's the same two questions that it's been, since Friday when Batherson signed his extension. The questions are, what will the term and contract look like for Brady Tkachuk, and where will Logan Brown play? So beyond that, though, what about external moves? And still expect this team to be trying to tweak. And Pierre Dorion pretty much confirmed that on TSN 1200 yesterday, that there still is some chatter around the league, and they could still be trying to do something.
Well, we still got a lot of irons in the fire. That doesn't mean that, anyone that's worked in the world of hockey is trades, signings, especially this time of the year. Things started heating up, and through camp, things can happen as far as, some teams feel they've got pieces that can replace other pieces, and players become expendable. So we're always talking with other teams, and we got a great staff here, and I think we're always on top of things, and we know what's going around the league. And if something happens to improve this team, we'll definitely look at it.
All right, so maybe camps maybe have to start to get underway. Maybe young players win a job, decent veteran players available, could be something of that nature, but they're absolutely trying to add a forward, and in all likelihood trying to add a center and change some of the mix at center ahead of camp, preferably, but maybe just ahead of that regular season. Final one here, Bunda. Let's just here's Pierre Dorion, just his thoughts on the signing.
Happy for myself, but happy for this group, my staff, that I get to be at the head of hockey for the next 4 years, and keep. We've been through a lot. I think I don't mind to say that both Eugene and I have been through a lot, and the faith that he's put in me at the head of hockey, and the fact that we want to win together here, I think I thank him a lot for giving me this opportunity.
And we're going to have Sylvain Saint-Laurent on the show coming up in about 20 minutes or so. And when I was setting this up with Slide to get him to come on yesterday for today's show here, just talking about, when you think about people that have worked consecutively for one franchise, if Pierre Dorion, if he fulfills the whole deal, but except for the option year at the end, all of it's guaranteed, right? Money, whether there's a change made between now and the end of his current contract or his next extension contract, whatever, I think we're looking at 19 years with the Ottawa Senators. Think about that. When he first came in as a scout, and ended up rising to the level to lead the scouting department. Different titles along the way, and then as one of the assistant general managers alongside, ended up becoming assistant general manager, and Tim Murray was here, and Randy Lee was here, and when Brian Murray was the general manager, and now when he became the GM, and Brian Murray stayed on as the advisor. Like, that whole path of joining the Ottawa Senators organization, when you project out to the end of this contract extension, I think we're looking at about 19 years. Mm-hmm. Like, think about that. Like, how, and start to think, go around the league, how many people consecutive years work for that, like, one organization. And I'm just went off the top of my head. We were discussing this with Sly, or I was yesterday, and he'll join us at 11. I guess David Poyle, right, with Nashville. Was Barry Trotz the coach for that long? It was darn close if he wasn't, right?
Yeah.
Before he moved on from there. How long was Ken Holland in the Red Wings organization? Because he rose to be the GM. He was there a bit prior to that as well. Then you can go super old school, right? You can go into Adams, like Glenn Sather with the Oilers, or the Rangers as well? Like, is it both? Like, how long you were there? I guess it'd be the Rangers, because if you counted the playing days ahead with the Oilers, like, maybe. Anyways, point is that's quite something to spend possibly like 19 seasons with one organization, and like all in that kind of that brass role, right? Like, I'm not talking coach, I'm not talking player, obviously. You're a part of the scouting staff. You've had different titles along the way, but this has been already a pretty long relationship with Pierre Dorion, and now it's been extended out even longer. Mm-hmm.
Well, even just heading into this year, this is his 5th year as the GM. Like, he's had a good run at a GM here. He's had some good long years. Like, this is something where, and for himself too, he's local, right? He's from Ottawa. This is something where it means a little bit more, right? It's something that he loves. His dad worked in the game as well before that. Pierre Dorion has been a guy of the game his whole life. This is something that it means a lot. And it means a lot to everybody. I don't mean to put it in that sense, but the idea of being local, and he's always talked about, being from here, doing things, and then going through being with the Montreal Canadiens, being with the Rangers, then coming here in 2007, like you said, spending 19 years. It's a big deal. Like, it is a big thing. So it's exciting for himself to get that second chance now to go through, because he had that quick run in 17, but then you look at the rebuild they've been through since then, and he's had to do it all. And you ask every GM, anyone that wants to be working management, that is the exciting part of it, is building your own roster, and he's literally had to do that. Colin White is the only guy left on this roster from that 17 run, and he barely played in that run. So he's literally had to get rid of some of these guys, like an Erik Karlsson, who he probably scouted and helped brought in and like, there's so many guys that he's had to ship out, bring in, build, draft. Like, his hands are all over this. This is Pierre Dorion's baby. And like you said, this is not just the GM run, it's the years in the making before that. And now it's the idea of, you have this chance to take that next step, start winning, become a playoff team. If everything goes well in the next 3 years here, this is the unparalleled success, right? This is the run of success that he has built. And like I said, he absolutely deserves this extension. I'm happy for him. I'm happy for this team. I'm happy for the fan base, because they deserve this kind of stuff, and after everything they've been through the last couple of years. And now it's just, where does it go? I think that's the exciting thing. And, you talk about, the roster moves and the way this team is, and Pierre weighing in on that. And one thing I do like so far, Lloydie, they haven't pulled the trigger out of desperation on adding a forward yet. They've waited all summer, right? This is something we heard the owner say. When were his comments? Back in May or June, like, and it's back in May. But when you hear him say, we want to add a defenseman, we want to add a center, and they haven't done the center part yet. They've added some defensemen, but when is that shoe going to drop? And I kind of like the idea that it hasn't came out of desperation and a must pull move yet, and maybe something happens in the next couple days or weeks or whatnot. But something is, it sounds like it's not over, and he's being patient. So I like that idea.
All right, let's take a break here. Get some of your thoughts on that in just a moment at 12:00. Trent Mann spoke to the media. I think we'll play you some of that coming up in our next segment. Then Sylvain Saint-Laurent is going to join us from Ladois. Mark Rowe, little tennis talk later on. And also a bit later on, we'll play a little bit of Shane Pinto later in the show, who was a guest at 8 this morning with JR and Simmer. And I mentioned it on retweeting and promoting the interview after the fact, and was listening to it live. He's a lot of fun. Sounds like a very mature young man, and we'll have some fun during his interviews. But, and got into some detail about his conditioning and, his height and weight right now and how he's feeling and expectations for the career. It's because oftentimes you ask those kind of questions, and a lot of players, they just don't want to reveal what their goals are. He did. He gave a lot of detail during that interview, so we'll touch on that a bit later on here in the show as well. Back in a moment, though, on In the Box on TSN 1200. And not spelled the same way. When they did the post-match interview in the round of 16, it was brought up. And I don't know if then, because she turned 19 on Monday, then 18-year-old Leylah Fernandez had just smiled and had no idea what Leylah was, probably. But she was very polite, and they just continued on with the interview. Mm-hmm. So that was awesome watching that. I didn't have my nap, Kenny. Creature and Kenny were wondering if I was going to get my nap in, and I couldn't get my nap in. I had to watch more tennis, so watched Leylah Fernandez do her thing. And now she's going to have to beat the second-seeded player in the tournament in the world if she wants to go to the finals. But she has her last 3 matches. Oh man, just knocked off like high-level players. So this is truly a coming-out party / Cinderella run. Turns 19 during it, and it's still going. So Mark Rowe is going to join us to talk more about that. And also Felix Auger-Aliassime, who he'd won the first set and was looking good and probably is going to win that match last night. But got a little bit of help. Didn't have to work as hard as he thought he was going to have to work as he advanced in pretty much a walkover as Carlos Alcaraz, the 18-year-old Spaniard, was having some leg problems, and he bowed out during the second set, and that's it. So a little extra rest for the 21-year-old Felix Auger-Aliassime as he's got Daniil Medvedev, the number 2 seed, coming up in the semis. So as it's great, both Fernandez and FAA, they've moved on to the semis, and we'll see if they can keep their dreams alive. But both of them taking on 2 seeds now to try to get to the U.S. Open finals bundas. But it's been awesome, and I know that tennis isn't as mainstream as some of the other sports that we talk about here, but man, this is a slam. This is the U.S. Open, and the Canadians are kicking ass. Yeah. And it's so much fun to just to kind of get excited about that. You can see Canadian sports Twitter comes alive.
Oh yeah, and
right. When whether it's Felix or it's Leylah or Bianca was playing or Shapovalov, and it's so much fun right now to be just to be a sports fan and just watch what's happening down in New York.
Yeah, and how about just Leylah Fernandez when she did her interview post match, and she's talking about, it's the maple syrup, that's why Canada's doing good, right? Like it's funny stuff like that, and then Felix is having fun with it as well, and they're just having fun together. And just for Mark Rowe himself, like this is a guy that covers a lot of tennis for TSN, and he's done that for the last couple of years. The excitement and fun that being down there around this, right? The extra love he's getting. It's just something where it's catching everyone's eye. You brought up earlier, Magic Johnson's weighing in. You have John McEnroe just not making fun lightheartedly, but about, Canadians shouldn't be doing this good in tennis. It's amazing how the takeover and how much of it is this, the early success from Milos Raonic years back, Eugenie Bouchard years back, just seeing Canadian tennis kind of evolve to where it is right now. And, to see how young Leylah is and just how shocked she is, and it's just how exciting it is when you have these young superstars kind of taking over, and her and Felix right now are kind of the young superstars in the making, and it's just awesome to see them having success. And for Leylah Fernandez, it's not like it's coming easy. She's battling hard and battling some of these top seeds, and she's dealing with controversy in her matches. It's awesome.
Now, I told you we were going to run some Trent Mann in this segment, but it's quite long, and I want to get to it because all kinds of great detail about all these great young players in the organization and dev camp. So we're going to do that. I think we'll run that maybe midway through next hour so we can get to it all. We just won't have enough time in this segment. We've got Sylvain Saint-Laurent coming up at 11, and we'll get Sly's thoughts on Pierre Dorian's extension and the season wrapping up here and what he thinks is going to happen with the Brady Tkachuk contract, what that's going to look like. And Logan Brown and Sly's been covering this organization for years and always has some great insight. So we'll talk to Sylvain coming up here just shortly after 11 o'clock. So I just want to slide in some other things here in the meantime. And I asked Graham Creech this yesterday, and now they're a game closer, so it's easier to say yes. Do you think the Blue Jays are going to do it, Bunda? Do you think they're going to be a postseason team? As they're as hot as any team right now. They've won 6 in a row, and the Red Sox have had a tough schedule, and they haven't been playing well anyway, but they're losing to the Rays, and the Jays are getting it done so far. They've already at least earned the split with the Yankees in that 4-game set in Game 3s tonight. Like, they're going to have to stay pretty darn hard the rest of the way. They're still on the outside looking in here. Do you think that they're going to do it, though? Will they make the postseason? Can they keep this push going?
I think so. I think they can keep the push going, but and you look at, like you said, it's so unfortunate that their August was not very good, because Boston and New York have been so struggling the last 2 months, and to see that the Blue Jays didn't make any ground now heading into this, like, they've won 6 in a row, they're 9-1 in the last 10. You look at the other two teams, the Yankees have lost 4 in a row, the Red Sox have lost 3 in a row, 2-8 and 4-6 in their last 10 games. This is the time to kind of make up ground for it. There's a lot of pressure with so many games left in the year. They have some more games against the Yankees left. This is going to be huge, but I only think that they're going to be able to do it is if they can take that series with the Yankees, because if you look at their schedule, they have a couple games against the Orioles left. That's an advantage towards them, but I do believe that they can do it. It's just, are they going to burn out? That's where I look at.
All right, so that series continues tonight, and Alek Manoah is going to get the ball for the Jays as they'll try to run the winning streak to 7 games and take the first 3 games of that 4-game set against the Yankees. NFL ramps up, coming up tomorrow night, Bunda. Tomorrow night, your Bucs play the Cowboys, and the NFL season gets underway. We're going to try to get Brent on, right?
Yeah.
We're working on that.
I've been
Sobleski?
in conversation with Mr. Sobleski.
Get him on from Bleacher Report for maybe on tomorrow's show. We'll see if we can make that work. He'll be pretty busy, but hopefully we can get Brent on. Usually he's good to go, and we'll get more into it tomorrow. But are you prepared for your new favorite player, Tom Brady, in launching the defense here? And you have to go buy some more mini trophies after the upcoming season. It's been the off season of Bunda. Let's be honest. Like, how much stuff have you bought, and how much chirping has taken place after Brady goes to the Bucs? And I'll say this about you, Bunda: you're not a fair weather fan. I mean, you were a Bucs fan before, and you jumped on when just ahead of them winning years ago when you were a kid, but there's been some lean years in between, Mr. Bunda.
Lean years is a nice way to put it, but it's exciting because it feels like it was just yesterday that they won the Super Bowl. That everything has kind of sped up and accelerated so fast this offseason. And I've only got a couple things. I'm currently wearing one of my shirts, the Super Bowl shirt, but I got a ring, I got a couple trophies, and I don't like to get too ahead of myself, as the players would say. I'll be all cliche on you, Lloydie. We're going to take it one game at a time, and it starts with the Dallas Cowboys, who are hungry, but there is a different feel. Like this Bucs team, I'm excited to see how they perform this year, because they've brought back virtually the same roster and improved a couple areas. And that's where it's like, okay, how are they going to do? But there's a big difference between the way they played last year, and they were a team that was constantly counted out, and they had some good success. They had 11 wins last year, but it was a team that was hunting other teams. They were supposed to lose to the Saints in the playoffs, the Packers, the Chiefs. They were never supposed to win those games. They battled and they won, and sure, Tom Brady was there and he did a great job of it, but now there's that different factor of, you are the defending champions, how are they going to do it? And I've seen analysts talk about, and it brings me back to a couple of years ago with our old pal who used to work on the show, but undefeated seasons are getting brought up, MVP seasons now that Brady's a year into an offense, and it's hearing all these conversations, it's funny. But for me, I'm excited to just have football back. Like I said, I had a couple drafts this week, I got another another one tonight with the work staff. Okay, I know you love talking about fantasy football, probably your second favorite thing other than your golf games and poker beats and all that. But it is just exciting to have football back, and I'm happy. You know how much I love football and how much I love my Bucks. Like they're my squad. Like that's my like I cried when they beat the Packers and they went to the Super Bowl. All that pain I've suffered. Like this is a team that like I live and die by, and it's just like I'm excited for just have football back tomorrow, and you know it's going to be exciting to see. It's the best matchup you could have asked for of the year because you have the defending champions. They're going to be raising their banners and all that, but then you got the Cowboys Nation and America's team that they're playing. All the eyes. Like this is going to be one of the biggest televised games of the year. Other than I think the Bucks versus the Patriots in Week 4.
Are you going to be on your best behavior tonight? Because I understand that Matt Carmella is hosting the annual draft tonight here, right? You got to sit in the right seat. There's an order of things here.
It's on Zoom. It's on Zoom because
it's on. That's right. Obviously,
safety, and it's also.
I was wishing we could be a little further down that road, but it's on Zoom. Okay.
It was something that was discussed, but
will you be making your own wings, and people will watch you eat these wings on Zoom during this as well?
If people want. That'd be funny. Let's go to the sideshow here in between picks. You know, it's like when you watch the draft lottery, the commentary, or NFL drafts, there's commentary on the side in between picks. Maybe I could do that.
You should do that.
This is how you preseason your wings, fellas. And then, you
have to stay true to, everyone has to stay true to their brand.
Yeah.
I think that you need to make a batch of messy wings, like hot sauce dripping, so you're constantly licking your fingers.
Hold on, guys.
You know, that'll drive Eric nuts. He hates that.
Sorry, I got wing sauce on my fingers. Let me just wait till I get my pick in.
Yeah.
Who's up next?
You should do that.
Because there's always some fun times of who picks someone that's already been taken, right? And it's, oh, come on, boo, what are you doing? And, you know, there's that. There's, all right, who's on the clock? Who's taking, it's my pick? I didn't know. But really, you're just, prolonging it and you're just delaying it so you can do your research. Everyone knows. But yes,
if I were you, I would do it on like a desktop computer. So if you ruin the keyboard, you only have to replace the keyboard and not the whole laptop. Okay,
it's 2021,
with the sauce all over the place.
Who has a real desktop computer anymore?
Hey.
Kenny raised his hand. I'm sure you do too.
I'm on one right now.
Yeah, my mom does too.
Well, listen. I never use this computer. I hadn't used it for years, but ever since we started doing shows remotely here, I use it every day. So I kind of feel good. I'm like, hey, I'm using that thing again. I'm not using the laptop, the tablet, the phone. Anyways, okay. All right, Bunda. Full report maybe on tomorrow's show. And not who you picked. I don't care about your team. I want to hear about the controversy. What goes sideways tonight? Who hates who? Talk. All that. That's what I want to hear about tomorrow. That's what the listeners want to hear. I don't care about your picks. I want to hear about the fights that'll happen tonight. All right, we got to go. Sylvain Saint Laurent from Ledouard coming up next on In the Box on TSN 1200.